Nobody's guaranteed employment. This is not that kind of a system. John, concierge member, according to Stephen Miller, the deportation of Garcia was not a mistake. He had his due process in 19 and a deportation order was issued. Since then, Garcia asked for asylum because saying he feared for his life, on and on and on and on. Look, I'm not going to get involved with this. The government says the MS-13 guy, okay, I'm willing to look at that evidence. But right now, one judge is adjudicating his asylum request, and the Supreme Court has asked the Trump administration to facilitate his return. And if the Trump administration doesn't want a war with the Supreme Court, which that is not good, it will bring him back. It's not worth it. The simple story. Not worth it. Robert Doyle, Brooklyn, New York. What is this I keep reading about Barack Obama getting $2.5 million payments and royalties from Obamacare? I don't know what it is, Robert. I don't know what you're reading, but that's insane. If you tell me where it comes from, I'll expose the charlatans. But a question for you, why are you reading stuff like that? There's no backup to that. But tell me where it comes from, and we'll go get them. In a moment, something you might not know. Let's talk about something big pharma doesn't want you to hear. The government and drug companies suppress treatments like ivermectin and others, not because they didn't work, but because they threatened their billion-dollar vaccine rollout. They want control over your health, but when it comes to your health, you should be in charge. I trust All Family Pharmacy. They provide ivermectin, antibiotics, more essential treatments that can be hard to find. They handle prescriptions shipped directly to your door in days, no hassle, real options. Stock up now so you're prepared, whether it's for illness, travel, or just peace of mind. You never know when you'll need these medications. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill. Use the code BILL10 for 10% off. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, code BILL10.
I'm Danny Cohn, CEO of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. I want to share a bit about Passover, especially for those who may have friends, neighbors, or coworkers observing this meaningful Jewish holiday. Passover tells the story of Moses and the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom in ancient Egypt. It is a time for family, reflection, and honoring traditions passed down through generations. Many families gather for a Seder, a special meal filled with symbolism and questions that spark conversation and learning. No matter what you celebrate this season, appreciating each other's cultures and traditions helps us build a more connected, compassionate St. Louis. So from our Jewish community to yours, Happy Easter, Ramadan Mubarak, and Chag Pesach Sameach. Happy Passover.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. 160 years ago today, federal agents arrested a female conspirator following the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. She would soon become the first woman ever executed by the U.S. government. Here is the story of Mary Surratt. Born 1820 in Waterloo, Maryland, young Mary earned a living as a maid and innkeeper. According to prosecutors, John Wilkes Booth and a handful of other men used her boarding house in Washington, D.C. to plan the attack on Lincoln. Mary was allegedly aware of the plot, cooking their meals and providing a place for the traitors to sleep. After the assassination, the authorities rounded up everyone associated with the plot. Mary was arrested on April 30th, 1865. Surratt's son, John Jr., was also thought to be involved in the conspiracy, but escaped to Canada before capture. Although Mary claimed to be innocent, she was tried and convicted by a military commission. In short order, she was hanged for her crimes. In total, 4 people were executed for the plot against Abraham Lincoln. Another 3 sentenced to life in prison. John Wilkes Booth died in a shootout in Northern Virginia. His final words, useless, useless. And here's something else you might not know. The actual boarding house where Surratt and Booth planned the assassination of Abraham Lincoln still stands to this day, but you will not find conspirators there anymore. For those looking to check out some history, it is now a restaurant in Washington's Chinatown district. The venue hosts a karaoke party every night for tourists. For the full story behind the most tragic assassination in history, please check out my first best-selling book, Killing Lincoln. It will tell you exactly why the nation's greatest president met his death at the hands of the assassin Booth. It is full of things you do not know. Back after this. Bill O'Reilly here, emphasizing the importance of a safer alternative in threatening situations. Before using lethal force, consider the Burner Less Lethal Pistol Launcher, a device designed to incapacitate an attacker with tear gas and kinetic ammunition for up to 40 minutes, minimizing legal risks and permanent harm. We heard from a Burner user, Adam, who faced a road raging driver. Armed with his Burner launcher, Adam de-escalated the threat by aiming the laser right at the aggressor. That allowed him to safely wait for police intervention. That night, Burner not only prevented a potential tragedy, but also saved potential lives without causing physical harm. Burner is legal across all 50 states, with no background checks required. More than 500,000 units have been sold. Discover why so many choose Burner at byrna.com/bill to save 10%. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
News, analysis, opinion. News Talk STL. KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. 2 people were killed and at least 5 wounded in a shooting at Florida State University. The 2 deaths are not students at the university, but the shooter is believed to be a student. Florida State student Joshua Sermon says he was first alerted when he heard what he thought was a fire alarm go off.
It sounds a little different, though. And I'm just saying, active shooter, you kind of just like panic a little bit in the moment. You're just like, man, is that real? Like, take a little bit to process it, then you get to your safe area. I went to a little cubby space, and then you just look down at your phone, look at the news, and like start to process it. Like, damn, people just got shot a couple feet away from me.
President Trump is complaining about the Federal Reserve and says Chairman Jerome Powell's termination cannot come fast enough.
Interest rates should be down now. They should be coming down. In Europe, as you know, they reduced them, I guess 7 times. It looks like they're going to reduce them again and again and again. But our guy wants to play cute.
The president is unhappy with Powell's comments this week that tariffs will likely lead to higher inflation. California will sue to stop President Trump's tariffs.
Governor Gavin Newsom says the president lacks the authority to impose a 10% tariff on all imports and that enacting such tariffs requires approval from Congress. The Democratic governor also says the tariffs are driving up prices and threatening jobs in California. The lawsuit will ask for the tariffs to be blocked. Newsom's announcement comes days after he asked countries to exempt California exports from retaliatory tariffs. I'm Julie Walker.
On Wall Street, the Dow down by 527 points today, the Nasdaq dropping 20, the S&P 500 advanced by 7 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Heard me talk about Relief Factor and how so many people enjoy a better, more pain-free life because of it. If you're dealing with everyday pain, it makes sense you'd want to try it first. Well, Relief Factor makes that pretty pain-free too with their 3-week quick start kit for only $19.95, less than $1 a day. Relief Factor is a daily supplement that fights pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain temporarily, it helps reduce or eliminate pain. Visit relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF for Relief Factor.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66, and then a warm, breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. Not out of the question. That's why it's a First Alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more First Alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Basement with a Y. That's Basement E.
It's Basement T.
Basement E?
It's Basement T.
Oh, Basement T. Basement T. I get it. That's the basement waterproofing and foundation repair experts at Woods Basement Systems.
Right. The all things Basement T experts at Woods Basement Systems will provide you a free estimate and dry out that wet basement and fix that cracked foundation. Call 800-388-9326 or go online to woodsbasementsystems.com.
That's woodsbasementsystems.com.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention News Talk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention News Talk STL for 10% off.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
On Friday at 8:35, my guest is going to make the case for making America greater again by having more babies and making bigger families.
Mornings starting at 5:30 on News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Around 12 o'clock, an alert went out from Florida State University telling students to shelter in place, that they had reports of an active shooter near the student union. And just in the last 2 minutes or so, we got an update from the Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare that says they are receiving patients from that shooting scene as well. We believe 4 patients have been sent that way so far. I've also been told by a law enforcement source that I've talked to that the shooter has also been taken into custody. We're trying to figure out exactly the extent of injuries and what's going on.
And welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We started to bring you in with a little bit of sobering news here today, but we will continue to cover the unfortunate latest breaking news out of the state of Florida, specifically Tallahassee, specifically Florida State. At least 2 killed in a Florida State University shooting. Suspect has been ID'd as the son of a sheriff's deputy. So that will be a very interesting complication to this story. They had a brief press conference where they didn't divulge a whole lot of details at this point. But Chris, it is a reminder that despite all the problems we have around the globe, we have some significant problems also here at home.
That is true. Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, we have some sick and disturbed people who all too often, Tim, have used firearms to get out their frustration or to harm society because they are mad at society. When are we going to get to the point where, in order for students to be safe at these universities, in order for students to be safe at our K through 12 schools, that we should have teachers that are armed, who are certified and trained and know how to handle a weapon so that they can stop this in its place? And Tim, I would also support students being able to carry on the campus as well, because we always know in these type of situations, the police get there too late. The carnage and the mayhem has already happened before they get there to stop the situation. Our society is at the point now where it's so violent, and some will say we're hearkening back to the old West where we're carrying sidearms, but that's where society is today. And there's a lot of problems. We can blame a lot of people on that, of course, as the Democrats, but I think those are just common sense measures we should seriously consider.
There's the cultural aspects of this, and there's also the nuts and bolts aspects of this, which you said. There's often not a good political solution, as we all know. You can outlaw whatever you want to outlaw, and they've done that in certain parts of the globe, and it has not ended violence, and in many cases, it hasn't even ended gun violence, right?
We had knife attacks in Europe last week.
Or they use box trucks, and they mow over dozens of people in a crowd. Are 12 people killed by a runaway box truck less important to consider than 12 people killed in a shooting? They're all human lives.
And as we know, just the gun, the inanimate object, is an easy thing to point to as the problem. And instead of putting the blame where it belongs, on the person who committed the crime, we call it gun violence, which is absolute BS. And I know how the Democrats are when they have these type of situations, Tim. It's going to be any hour now that they're going to be crying for gun control. And I bet you the Democrats are going to be feeling their oats a little bit, because they're going to say, okay, we've got this issue with gun control. The Republicans aren't for that. We've got Trump wanting to give tax cuts to billionaires and cut Medicaid to poor people. The economy is slumping. They're calling it the Trump slump. So looking at it from a Democratic standpoint, and you know how they think this is another chip in order for them to chip away at Donald Trump.
They do. And my response to that would be, these are moments in time, and these are particular instances. And yes, they are going to absolutely try and feast on these and conflate these. What Republicans, what the Trump administration, what conservatives need to remember is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And if a year from now, the economy is in a better shape, if inflation has been tamed, if some of the metrics we see continue to go in the right way, mortgage rates are at the lowest point now than they've been in months. Prices are coming down on multiple things. It's going to take more than 30 seconds to turn around all the damage the Biden administration has done. But you're right. Day to day, yes, the Democrats are going to feast on any one particular item they can. That's why we have to have a holistic message that is lifting up those on the other side.
Yeah, I think the best thing for Donald Trump's political fortunes is, one, to get this budget reconciliation bill done before the August reset, make sure that the tax cuts are permanent, lower tax rates for everyone, get the economy as well. I think by the time that the budget reconciliation bill is passed into law, I think we'll have a number of trade agreements with a number of countries. The administration will be able to tout that as a win, and maybe even China and the EU may give in as well. Trump administration has a very interesting strategy to kind of box China in. Tim, they are going to China's trading partners in that region and trying to cut separate deals with them to cut out China. And China is very worried about that because they've had some bites on that apple. And 40% of China's exports come to the United States. So that shows really how dependent we are. And if you don't listen to the media, the president has some leverage here if you don't listen to the media.
Well, and balancing out balancing out the day-to-day battles and the tactical battles, I would say there's plenty of things that day-to-day the Trump administration and conservatives and Republicans are winning on because of the stubbornness of the left and the Democratic Party. The more the Democrats and the left triple down on their defense of criminal illegal aliens and having biological men and women's sports, which they're doing every single day, that's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift. That is an unforced error that the left continues to commit, and we should let them commit it every day from Sunday.
And speaking of unforced errors, Tim, they just don't know when to quit. Some House Democrats, this is in Politico, are talking about a self-funding trip to El Salvador.
Please do it. Please do it.
Yes, and they know Republicans will not approve an official delegation, so they'll have to use personal or campaign funds
Go for it.
To do this. But these people are actually talking about doing a CODEL, which is the congressional delegation down to El Salvador to advocate for this criminal illegal alien who was deported back to his home country. Yesterday, Tim, AG Pam Bondi released some more information on him about he had a domestic assault case against his wife, filed in a domestic assault case against him. They also released the gang identification paperwork and everything. So this guy's a gang member. We all know he is, and I think he is right where he belongs, not in the United States.
I hope they use tons of campaign funds for this, because those will be dollars that will not be spent against Republicans next year. I hope they go for it. Yeah.
Insane.
Go big, go home.
Can you imagine that campaign commercial?
No kidding. Hey, I want to wish everyone on behalf of all of us here, I want to wish everyone who's celebrating it today a very happy and blessed Maundy Thursday. It's Maundy Thursday today, otherwise known as Holy Thursday, a Christian holy day that commemorates the Last Supper of Jesus Christ with his disciples and the act of washing their feet. A lot of the sacraments came out of the Holy Thursday celebrations. The term Maundy is a Latin word that means mandatum, which means commandment, referring to Jesus's command to love one another as he loved them. Something good to keep in mind, despite the maelstrom of horror and evil surrounding us.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here. You've taken much more Latin than I have, but does the word mandate come from that Latin word? Probably.
It does. It does. Yes. Yes. Mandatum. Yes. It comes. It is.
Look at us sounding all highbrow here.
Look at all us. I could throw out some more, Chris. Res ipsa loquitur. Yeah, res ipsa loquitur. And all of that. Joey V. Yes, he's in studio. We'll let him say a few words here today in his gorgeous Adidas tracksuit.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Adidas.
Have you been watching the show on Netflix, Adolescence? It's 4 episodes. Have you heard of this? It's
No.
like the
No.
biggest show going on right now. It's crazy how similar it is to the stabbing incident that happened between those two football players. The whole show is about these kids who are 13-year-olds and one murders the other just because of them being alone with their internet and what's on their phones, and we can't control it. And just listening to Jamie talk about that all day, it was crazy how similar that show is. So I'd recommend that. Adolescence, it's only 4 episodes. Each episode is one shot, one continuous shot.
And Tim, I think this murder, alleged murder, well, it is a murder, I think it brings up the age-old debate we've had since the 80s with violent lyrics and music, rap games or video games that are simulating murder, and they're so lifelike now. How much does this callous a young brain that is still developing and isn't mature yet when you just see thousands of acts of violence over and over and over? And do you become callous to it?
Yeah. I mean, we don't want to blame one particular thing, but to your point, parents have to be involved in what their children are doing, right? And I'm sure, Chris, there are tons of kids, a super majority, I'm sure, more than a super majority, who can play those video games and maybe watch certain films or shows, and they can handle it mentally, physically, psychologically, and be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But there's that percentage that cannot. And that's where parents, you don't have to forbid anything or boycott anything. But to your point, when you're immersing yourself in a violent world, and a world where you shoot and kill someone in a video game and then you're alive 5 seconds later, people start getting an alternate version of what reality is.
Yeah. If you're finding out that that your kid is mutilating cats or burying them head with just their head sticking out and then getting along, I've had kids do that when I was growing up.
Maybe writing weird stuff.
Exactly. Mutilating animals. You probably don't want to get them a violent
keeping manifestos. Like parents, are you monitoring your kids' social media? We monitored our daughters. Luckily, my daughters weren't really much into social media. They still aren't, praise God. I do enough damage on Twitter every day. But
how much freedom do you give? Because I didn't have a child growing up, so I didn't have to worry about monitoring their activities and all that. How far do you go? I mean, a kid will say, this is my room, this is my private space. And you want to, as they grow older, you want to give them that independence, but it is your house and you do have the responsibility for raising them. Do you snoop on them if you're suspecting anything?
Well, in our situation, we didn't have to go that far because my wife is an excellent mother and a great disciplinarian. Both. She's both. Suzanne is a excellent caregiver and also excellent when it comes to laying down the law. And what she does is, on the first hand, with being a caregiver, Suzanne, and maybe it was because of the mother-daughter relationship, and I have a very good relationship with my daughters too, but what Suzanne would do would talk to your children every day. Suzanne knew exactly what was going on in the kids' lives. And Suzanne always says, and she's an educator. Suzanne has been taught these things, and she has a psychology background, and so she's counseling and all that. She knows much more about this world than I do. You have to talk to people, especially your children, and you're not their friend, right? You're their parent.
Yes.
And so it's tough, Chris. Yeah. Were there days where our daughters ran around, I hate mom and dad, Oh, sure, absolutely. But we have a healthy relationship, but it is a parental child relationship, and I'm very blessed. My daughters have grown up to be wonderful young ladies, and I know not everybody has that experience. Raising a child is difficult. I could not have done it alone. And I want to give a lot of thanks to my wife. And we also were blessed. We're very blessed. We still have both of our sets of parents, their grandparents, and they were part of that upbringing as well. So, Chris, the family unit, the family structure.
Look at the African-American
something
community.
Democrats tried to destroy.
I mean, you can just look at, if you want a case study of fatherlessness and dependent on the government, you look at the African-American community. I watched a video the other day. It was like African-Americans were at the bottom when it came to household median income. I think it was like $55,000. I think East Asians, Indians were first. Below them was Chinese. Below them were some other were white people. Below them were other groups, but African-Americans were at the dead bottom. Tim, before we go to break, I want to talk about something for just a second, because these stories always amaze me. A big discovery today. Astronomers are saying that they may have found life on a distant planet that's 120 light years away. They're all excited about it and all that. So we're excited about possibly finding life 120 billion 120 light years away. We have no idea when life is right here in the mother's womb, which is right here on Earth. We can't find and discover that.
Such a great point.
Just the irony of these type of stories just amaze me.
So yes, the left wants to, because I'm sure there's left-leaning scientists, they want to celebrate life in a different galaxy, Chris, but they don't want to admit life begins at conception here on planet Earth.
Explain that, scientist. Yes. The science.
Brilliant. Brilliant indeed. Chris, don't be bringing that alien to Earth. Yeah, exactly. Don't be bringing those aliens here. Yeah, exactly. Hey, we've got Steve Bucci coming up at 424. We're going to go around the globe in 12 minutes with Steve Bucci, talking Ukraine, Russia, the Middle East, whether or not our Democratic friends should be so worried about bringing criminal illegal aliens back to the United States, and more. Chris's Corner at 445, Speaker Stump Speech at 507. Stacy Washington, an old friend of many of us here at the station. She'll be joining us at 524. She, of course, is a radio host in her own right on SiriusXM Radio, and she has a brand new book out, Eternally Cancel Proof. That'll be interesting. 545, Chris will help us wrap things up, prepare us for Larry Connors USA. We'll take you into the Larry Connors USA program Lots to get to this afternoon.
I have some post-Masters news for you.
Oh, I'm interested.
At the end of the
Awesome.
show. So
Cool.
Interesting statistics.
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear this. We got producer Joey V here and all of you as well. Join us, Rumble, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Download our podcast. Follow us on all of those platforms I mentioned. And definitely always check out newstalkstl.com. The app is fantastic as well. All of that stuff and more coming up. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Steve Bucci, International Man of Mystery, next. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Pass me the sick bucket.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66, and then a warm, breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. Not out of the question. That's why it's a First Alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more First Alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Craving the freshest in town? Anthony's Produce is your daily destination for nature's finest. Start your day with warm, fresh baked Fazio's bread delivered daily. Browse our rainbow of quality fruits and vegetables, always fresh, always delicious. Hosting an event? Let us create stunning fruit bouquets and veggie trays, or treat someone special to our chocolate-covered strawberries. We proudly stock hundreds of locally made products, and yes, we even have seasoned firewood. Anthony's Produce opens 7 days a week, 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. at 701 Jungerman Road or anthonysproduce.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, Jamie Allman here for the great Window World. You know, just over the last 20 years of Window World being in St. Louis, they've improved the look and thermal efficiency of more than 76,000 customers in St. Louis. Plus, Window World windows come with a lifetime warranty that covers all parts, glass breakage, and labor. And now Window World is now offering 36 months, same as cash financing, with approved credit. Call them today at 314-993-1800, 314-993-1800.
Who doesn't love a good gyro? Soulard Gyro is the place to go. They're family owned and operated and been operating since 2009 and growing. 4 locations in O'Fallon, Maryland Heights, Wentzville, and Soulard. And they have gyros, rice bowls, salads, and wraps, Greek fries. I didn't even know that was a thing. So stop into one of their 4 locations. And if you need something catered, they can take care of that too. Soulard Gyro, SoulardGyro.com. Make authentic gyros great again.
Attention, reptile lovers. Ready to discover your next scaly friend? Welcome to the Show Me Reptile Shop, your ultimate destination for fascinating reptiles and exotic pets. With 3 convenient locations in Troy, St. Peters, and Springfield. We have an amazing selection of snakes, lizards, turtles, and more. Whether you're a seasoned herpetologist or a curious beginner, we've got the perfect pet waiting for you. Show Me Reptile Shop. Visit us in Troy, St. Peters, or Springfield, and online at showmereptileshow.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
We begin with growing concerns that China is playing an active role in supporting the Russian war effort in Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says 2 Chinese citizens have been captured while fighting in the east of his country, and he accuses Beijing of bolstering the Russian army. The Chinese government is insisting that it is neutral.
426 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And of course, on Thursdays, we speak with Steve Bucci, who was on the line. But before we get to him, Tim, we got to give the folks a shout out last night at the Americans for Prosperity. Americans for Prosperity, the event out there at the Funny Bone with the wrestler Kane, Mayor Glenn Jacobs, and a surprise special guest, Senator Schmidt, showed up as well. You know, we have a saying in the Black community is that you all showed up and showed out. It was a packed event like all our events are. So I want to thank everyone that came out to the event last night. People were commenting on my Facebook page what a great event it was. They learned a lot. And one person even said it was uplifting, Tim. So
yeah,
great event.
Huge crowd.
All right, let's get to Steve Bucci.
Steve Bucci, visiting fellow for Special Ops at the Heritage Foundation.
Oh, yes. What were you about to ask me? Do you expect me to talk?
Steve, it won't be as much of a thrill for me when I get to meet you, but I got to meet the wrestler Kane last night.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
You're like me. Yeah, who's that? I wasn't a big wrestling fan either. Hey, Steve, before we get to talking about these Chinese citizens fighting Ukraine, I want to talk about this report that came out this morning that Israel had planned to strike Iranian nuclear sites last month, but it was waved off by President Trump. Is Iran that close to getting a nuclear weapon, Steve?
Well, you know, Iran has been close to getting nuclear weapons, if you listen to the reports, for a couple of years. You know, I don't have insider knowledge in exactly when that day is going to come, but the reports that I've seen said they still are short a little bit of the right level of enriched uranium that they need for a device, but that they could spin that up, not being a pun, but they could refine that additional level relatively quickly. The thing we don't know is exactly, have they already developed the technology to not just build a nuclear device, but to build one that is small enough to go on the head of a ballistic missile, either intermediate range or long range, and have it actually do what it's supposed to do when it gets to the other end. That last piece is a tough engineering problem. You've got to get it manufactured to extremely high tolerances, or it just won't work. The detonator will go off and nothing will happen because it just doesn't have the size and the configuration quite right. But clearly they're trying to get that. They talk to the North Koreans all the time. They talk to the Russians. I assume they're probably talking to the Chinese too, but we don't know if they've quite gotten to that. I would say they haven't, because Israel hasn't attacked them yet. And Netanyahu has promised that when they think it's that close, where it becomes that existential danger to Israel, he's just going to take it out. The fact that he's been planning for that shouldn't surprise anybody. They've been planning for that probably since before the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, and ever since. But the fact that they had plans with dates associated with them, if the New York Times report is true, by the way, we don't know that for sure. New York Times definitely doesn't always have Israel's or the Trump administration's best interest at heart. But if it's true that they had that date, that's not surprising. That may have been something that was laid out there, and then as intelligence would come in, they might extend it or make it go faster. But it's clear that President Trump has been a supporter of Israel, has told them, look, if it gets to that point, we're going to help you do this. But I think he wants to make sure we have given it as much effort as we can, short of, massive strikes on Iran, which might include Israel using nuclear devices, by the way. So I think we've given them now some of the bunker busters, so maybe they won't have to do that to still take out those underground facilities. But he wants to try and do it. Give Iran one last chance to give up their program without a military strike. And I think it's worth giving it a try. If he found out today that Israel or that Iran is stiffing him, he could just one phone call to Netanyahu and said, okay, let's get together and figure out when we're going to do this. And they would do it. So this is not a big surprise, not frankly even news to me, but it's understandable, and it sort of fits with President Trump's way of doing business. It's not that he ordered them not to do it. I'm guessing he said, hey, Bibi, give me a chance to do this one more time. If it doesn't work, we're with you. We're going to go in there. We're going to help you take them out, which he's kind of given a lot of indications that that's what he would do if it came to that point.
Yeah, Steve, to further kind of drill down on this a little further, of course, so many of the media prognosticators are trying to figure out and quarterback, what exactly is Donald Trump going to do? What is Iran's response going to be? Good luck with all that, right? Pure speculation. And Steve, oftentimes what Donald Trump says versus what he does are two different things, often on purpose, right? I noticed that some in the media are absolutely hyperventilating about the prospect of Trump floating the idea of direct talks with the Iranians. They call them, unilateral versus bilateral talks. Steve, is that something, should we be concerned about that? Is that a departure from policy, or is it Donald Trump just trying to play all angles here and one side against the other?
No, I mean, we've had direct talks with him before. Trump he wants to talk to everybody. He wants to talk to people that you sit there and go, why? And frankly, Iran, in my mind, is in that category because they're not good faith negotiators. They're really good negotiators as far as their technique and their ability to win the negotiation. They took John Kerry to school, and made him look like a fool the last time with the original Iran nuclear deal. So they're very good at it, but Trump thinks he's better than everybody at negotiations. So he wants to try and convince them that it's foolish to keep doing what they're doing. So stop, give up this program, give up the means to do it, and then we'll help you out. But if you don't, we're coming for you. So, I don't think any of this is a departure from anything Trump has said or done before. They're not listed as a terrorist group where we have specific policies that we don't negotiate with terrorists. They're a nation state government, and one that if we don't talk to them, the only thing we have left to do is to go in and smack them. And, it's going to be a really heavy smack. It's not going to be knock out a few anti-aircraft positions. That might be the first step, but there's a bunch of steps coming after it, and a lot of people are going to die. Frankly, a lot of them who are innocent Iranian citizens who just happen to be in the cities where the government has these facilities. But I got to tell you, you got to watch whenever anybody says they're going to do something surgically with military means. The military really doesn't have much that's surgical in this clean vision that people have of something being surgical. It's either like really big holes in the ground or medium-sized holes, but that's about as surgical as we get.
Speaking with Steve Bucci, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Big story yesterday out of the Pentagon, Steve. 2 top Pentagon officials were put on administrative leave yesterday at part of an investigation to leaks. One of them was Dan Caldwell. He's a senior advisor to Defense Secretary Hegseth. He's described as one of his closest friends in the building. And Darren Selnick, the Pentagon's deputy chief of staff. Your thoughts on this? And do you know these 2 gentlemen personally?
I think I've met the first one when Hegseth was still working in the Conserved Veterans for America. That guy, they worked together there, and Heritage did a lot of events with that organization before Hegseth left and went to Fox. And so I don't know for sure. I think I may have met him. Neither of them are friends or co-workers in the past. But they were both, high-level advisors to the SecDef. And, look, everybody knows that whole signal thing. That was kind of a misstep. That was an unforced error if you play tennis, which I don't, by the way. But I'm just not good at it. But they shouldn't have done that. That was you don't talk about that stuff on even a quasi classified system. You talk about that kind of stuff at the highest levels. Was it a criminal act or anything like that? No, but it was not well advised and well executed. And apparently, at least a couple of people think these guys had something to do with it, and now they're getting investigated for it. If you're being investigated, particularly for a security-related potential error, you should be stepped back from your job until that is resolved. So this is the correct procedure. It's a shame because whenever a boss loses close advisors, that can, cause at least a hiccup in the system until they get somebody who can fill the role that person or persons filled. So, they're going to have to figure it out, adjust their system and their procedures to make up for these people being gone. And if they're found to have done something intentionally wrong or just something that was far enough over the line, they're probably going to lose their job and potentially lose their clearances. And that's the right response. When you screw up a security related thing like this, there's a price to be paid for it, no matter who you are.
Steve, are you I would love to get your thoughts on we're talking to Steve Bucci, by the way, folks, from the Heritage Foundation. We talk a lot of international foreign matters with you. Also talk a lot of national security questions, Steve, that has foreign policy implications. This concept of Democrats, their allies in the media, a lot of talking heads, absolutely hyperventilating over the deportation of a citizen of El Salvador back to El Salvador, who's been adjudicated by at least 2 courts to be a member of a terrorist criminal gang organization. Steve, it almost looks like a Saturday Night Live skit. They're like lampooning themselves, doing these humanitarian. We have U.S. senators and congressional leaders doing, quote, humanitarian missions to go down to El Salvador, where apparently they're not being allowed to speak to this El Salvadoran citizen, saying that we're going to bring him back home. It almost seems insane, Steve, and I guess we should just let him keep doing it. But I'm just wondering, am I missing something here?
Well, if you're missing it, so am I. I mean, it's a strange hill on which to die, for the Democrats. Why they're picking this guy? He's not an American citizen. Those senators and congressmen and who are all hyperventilating and pearl clutching have no standing before the Salvadoran government to ask for anything about this guy. He's a Salvadoran citizen who, by the way, was in our country illegally. He wasn't paroled. He hadn't been given asylum. He was here and at a criminal standing. And then you look at when they say, oh, he didn't get any due process. He had 2 court hearings. Now, if you don't like the results of those court hearings, I'm sorry. That's the way our system works. He got 2 shots at it, and both of them said, nah, this guy's an MS-13 fella. So no offense to the senator that went down there, Van Hollen,
yeah.
And, who can't even remember the guy's name most of the time. He keeps calling him the man from Maryland. It's like, maybe you should get your staff to explain all that to you, sir. They're saying stuff. This guy it's not an American citizen being held by a foreign government that you're trying to rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And more stuff keeps coming out on him, that the guy's wife had a restraining order against him. The wife who's now, on camera saying, oh, our life will be ruined if we don't get him back. He wasn't even supposed to be near his wife, at least for a certain period of time, because he assaulted her.
Not a choir boy.
No, he's not. And I love this, but he has 3 children. Okay, so he can procreate. That's not a qualification for the American government to mobilize and get him. And the Salvadoran president looks at him and says, "This guy's my citizen. I'm not going to give him to you." We were happy to get him back. And his last thing is, but he was under threat in El Salvador. This is the words everybody uses. He was under threat from a rival gang.
Yeah.
If you have a rival gang, that means you were in a gang that
Exactly.
somebody is a rival to, and they're obviously bad gangs because they're threatening to kill people. So, their own evidence of this guy is, I'm sorry if some guy from the Sicilian mafia showed up here in America and says, "Hey, my next door neighbor was coming after me with those little short shotguns all our guys carry over there. Can you guys give me asylum?" We would say no. We would deport them back to Italy. But why is this guy suddenly becomes a hero for the Democrat Party? It seems a really, really weird, stand to take.
Yes. And one of the things that the Democrats are hanging their argument on, Steve, is that he did enter the country illegally. He did get some type of status because he would be in danger if he's sent back to El Salvador. And they're also saying he married an American citizen, which I don't know how that worked. I thought there were laws in place to prevent people marrying American citizens so they could stay here legally or become citizens themselves.
Yeah, there is. You have to get permission to do that. And part of the investigation is this just a marriage of convenience to improve your immigration status? It doesn't automatically make you a citizen. And this guy has had 2 hearings of that status, and they decided, no, he's an MS-13 operative. No, the answer is no. He got denied asylum. So he's had due process. It's not like he just showed up here and he's going to be one of these other people that are going to wait 9 years for a court hearing. This is just insane. And at the same time, not one of these Democrat politicians are saying anything about the American citizens, a lady in Maryland, by the way, who had their daughter murdered by an illegal alien. That lady hasn't even got a text or a visit or a phone call from anybody at the state level government, definitely not from their senator. The non-citizen, we're going to make a cause celeb, but the American citizens who've been hurt by these people, that they're too busy for that. That's not on the right side of the spreadsheet for them.
And that is the wisdom of Steve Bucci, visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation. You can reach him on X at @sbucci and, of course, at heritage.org. Steve, thank you so much for your time and your expertise, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again next Thursday.
Sounds good, guys. Have a great week and have a happy Easter.
Oh, yeah. Happy
Talk
Easter.
To you later.
Happy Easter, Steve.
Thank you.
Almost forgot about that. How could I forget? All right, 444, Chris's Corner coming up. We're going to talk about Harvard is in the news and some positive effects of the Trump tariffs. We'll talk about that on Chris's Corner. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
She was terminally pretty. She held him up and he held up for ransom in the heart of the cold, cold city.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Man, come on. I had a rough night and I hate the f***ing Eagles, man.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Personal report Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66, and then a warm, breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. not out of the question. That's why it's a first alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more first alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
News, analysis, opinion.
Don't always agree, but in love listening to your radio station.
This is tyrannical stuff they're doing.
Elections have consequences. This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You know, I have to admit to you, when we had those couple of weeks of stock market drops, I got a little worried. I have to admit it, but I'm a long-term investor, a half full type of guy. But I tell you one thing I did not worry about, and that is where my money is here locally. My personal and business checking accounts are at Royal Banks of Missouri. Royal Banks is a full-service, locally owned and operated independent community bank. You know, Royal Banks has some of the highest financial ratings in St. Louis for stability and strength, and that's why they've been around since 1964. I bet you there's a location near you. They have 17 banking locations throughout St. Louis, including locations up in Hannibal, in Rawls County, across the river in Jerseyville and Granite City, Illinois, as well as 2 locations in St. Charles. And Royal Banks have over 200 ATMs across the Midwest to give you free access to your cash. Royal Banks also offers convenient interactive teller machines, or their ITMs, that will connect you with the banker virtually and in real time. As a customer of Royal Banks, you'll find their personal service is second to none. I can vouch for that. Their full range of financial services include products covering all your personal and business needs. You need an auto loan, you need a home mortgage, you need online and mobile banking. Royal Banks has it, plus wealth management services. Learn more. Visit them on the web at royalbanksofmo.com, royalbanksofmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank for your community.
Hey, DIY warriors, ready to transform your outdoor space? Start with Lee May Concrete Block, St. Louis's trusted family-owned manufacturer since 1947. Whether you're building a retaining wall, creating a backyard fireplace, or pouring concrete, Lee May's got you covered. From compact blocks to large cast concrete, they provide materials and professional guidance to bring your vision to life. Military and first responders get special discounts. Visit Lee May Block Showroom or LeeMayBlock.com. Lee May Block, building your dream one block at a time.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring Alvanza's jewel art designs with an exquisite selection of diamonds, semi-precious stone jewelry, and vintage watches. Their expert design team can restyle your jewelry to today's contemporary style. They also do jewelry and watch repair. Need extra cash? Jewels on Hampton is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches. Bring in your collectibles and clocks and sports memorabilia and figurines too. Jewels on Hampton, 4506 Hampton, just 3 blocks south of Chippewa, and jewelsonhampton.com. Call them at 314-752-5000, 314-752-5000, and jewelsonhampton.com. Jewels on Hampton.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too.
On Manchester at McKnight in Rock Hill.
Attention St. Charles, looking for a local spot that satisfies all your cravings? Mario's Donut Restaurant is your place to go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. From mouth-watering sandwiches and omelets to delicious gyros, Mexican dishes, salads, and wraps, we've got it all. And don't forget our famous donuts. They're so good, they'll make your eyes glaze over. Dine in or carry out, our friendly staff is ready to serve you with love and care. Mention News Talk STL when you visit. Call 636-447-4515 or visit mariosdonutrestaurant.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
So prices haven't gone up. The only thing that's gone up actually is interest rates.
because we have a Federal Reserve Chairman that is playing politics. Somebody that I've never been very fond of, actually. But he's playing politics. Interest rates should be down now. They should be coming down. Always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
451. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. And President Trump once again playing the media, giving them some catnip, and they play with it, they bite it, they roll around in it all afternoon. They're doing that. The speculation on all the shows is Donald Trump going to fire the Fed chair. It's an independent agency. He can't do that. That's all of the talk. And that's what the president wants, media. He wants you talking about things that he wants you to talk about. And if you continually have this pressure, supposedly of Trump trying to fire the Fed chair, that's what he wants, because the president wants the Fed chair to lower rates. He's putting pressure on him, as they say in sports, working the ref. All right, Joey, let's do a little corner.
Chris's Corner is brought to you by Elite Comfort Experts. Call 636-887-0971 or EliteComfortExperts.com.
Chris.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
Before we get into the corner, Tim, you know something that's really cool that I like, that when we do events, remotes or something, and if I'm introduced or whatever, that the people yell out, Chris, they'll yell out the theme song, which I think is awesome. So I love when folks do that. Chris.
That's
love
when
it.
you know you're dealing with a P1 listener,
exactly,
as we would say.
Exactly. All right. Harvard, as you all know, is definitely in the president's crosshairs. President was trying to get them to buckle and do some pro bono work and change some of their policies that discriminate against Jews. They said they are not going to do it. Well, last night, the Trump administration, they threatened to ban Harvard from enrolling foreign students, that you have to gain a certificate in order to do that. The president has every right to do that. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, in the letter, she said there's a hostile learning environment for Jewish students, and said, quote, "It's a privilege to have foreign students attend Harvard University, not a guarantee." And yesterday, Trump has asked the IRS to follow through with his threat to revoke Harvard's tax-exempt status. So we will see where that goes. You know, Harvard is lost $9 billion in grants and things for research. Harvard, the oldest university in the United States, and also, Tim, has the largest endowment of any university in this country. Take a wild guess. What do you think Harvard's endowment is?
It's got to be in the billions,
It
right?
is in the billions.
Is it in the tens of billions?
It's in the tens of billions.
Okay, then I'll guess. $50 billion.
$53 billion.
Oh,
good guess.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And, just imagine those kids are paying $250,000, $300,000 to get an education there, when Harvard is sitting on all of that money, tax-free. Of course, a tax-free enterprise.
That's the size of the budget, the annual budget of the state of Missouri.
For a university.
Sitting around in a bank account.
Exactly. Just
wow.
Stacking paper, as they say. All right. Former President Joe Biden is getting out of his shell. Earlier this week, he was in Chicago speaking to a bunch of Democratic activists on the dangers of cutting Social Security. Well, last night, Tim, he was at Harvard Institute of Politics, for an, quote, off-the-record study group with his longtime advisor, Mike Donilon. But Biden's presence, for some reason, on campus was kept extremely secretive. They did not publicize the event. Only selected students receiving invites the day before, with very little detail. The former president seems to have been smuggled in and out of the building, according to reports. So Joe Biden not having a post-presidency honeymoon, as a lot of presidents have, and they have to smuggle you in and out of a very liberal institution. And some tariff news. NVIDIA announced last week that they will begin to make artificial intelligence supercomputers wholly in America for the first time. Their chip manufacturing will ramp up in Arizona and in Texas. Reported earlier this week that President Trump met with the Japanese trade ambassador personally, and Japan has said that they will not impose retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. And this is something that the administration is doing to fight back against China. They are discussing the prospect of delisting Chinese companies that trade on U.S. exchanges. There were 286 Chinese companies listed on American exchanges with a total value of $1.1 trillion as of March 7th under a 2020 law known as the Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act. Companies whose paperwork could not be fully reviewed for 2 straight years could be kicked off their exchanges. So the Trump administration is looking into that. More pressure on the Chinese. Chinese may blink, Tim. We talked about the pressure that's already on them. 40% of their trade is with us. What would happen if $1 trillion of their wealth in their companies was automatically delisted from the United States? That'd be a serious thing. And that is Krista's Corner, brought to you by EliteComfortExperts.com.
Excellent.
507 Speaker Some Speech.
We talk about, now that we're entering, Chris, the Easter Triduum and the High Holy Days for the Christian religion.
You throwing more Latin on me?
No.
All right.
Why the pews are packed. Why the pews are packed on Easter.
All right.
Talk about why the pews are packed on Easter.
Is it the same reason as Christmas? Oh no, we'll keep that for we'll wait for the
similar,
all right,
but different. Yes.
All right, and Stacy Washington from Sirius XM and Salem TV at 524. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 1019 941 News Talk STL.
Tony Colombo here for my dentist, Dr. Matt Boscia at New Creation Dental Care, the one-stop shop for all your family's dental needs. And Dr. Boscia is always expanding his services, now including the incredible all-on-4 full arch implant procedure, full mouth restoration that can give you back your smile in as little as 1 day. No more suffering with damaged or missing teeth or poor fitting dentures. You can see some amazing smile makeovers, learn more about the all-on-4 procedure, and see everything Dr. Boscia can do right now at newcreationdentalcare.com.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Myella Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmostscholars.org. That's herzogmostscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
Hey, firearms enthusiast, looking for a family and veteran-owned shop with a wide selection of products and services? Head to DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green. DG Firearms has been your one-stop shop for custom ARs, Cerakoting, laser engraving, gunsmithing, suppressors, ammo, and reloading supplies. DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green, and online at dgfirearmsllc.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefontaine, KNVS Bowling Green.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Police say a gunman opened fire Thursday at Florida State University, killing 2 people and wounding at least 6 others. The 20-year-old gunman is the son of a sheriff's deputy whose former service weapon was used in the shooting, according to authorities. The 2 people who died were not students at the university, but the shooter is believed to be a student. 5 people were being treated at Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. A continuing battle over the detention in El Salvador of Kilmar Abrego Garcia between the judicial and executive branches of the United States government.
The justices largely threw out an emergency appeal filed by the Trump administration that itself was seeking to throw out a lower court order in favor of the man, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The government says that he is a member of the MS-13 street gang, although his attorneys dispute that. And in a lower court ruling, a judge found that there was no evidence that he was a gang member. In addition to which, the judge found that he was sent to El Salvador, even though he had an order from an immigration judge that said sending him to El Salvador would expose him to possible persecution by local gangs.
Correspondent Mark Sherman reporting. Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen says he was denied entry into an El Salvador prison on Thursday while he was trying to check up on the well-being of Garcia. President Trump is blasting Fed Chairman Jerome Powell for not aggressively cutting interest rates.
We have a Federal Reserve Chairman that is playing politics, somebody that I've never been very fond of, actually.
Powell was initially nominated by Donald Trump in 2017. On Wall Street, the Dow down by 527 points. More at townhall.com.
It's official. Newsmax has become a news giant. It's even listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Over 40 million Americans regularly turn to Newsmax for the news they need to know. They're tuning into the Newsmax channel on all major cable systems. They watch Newsmax 2 on all streaming platforms. They go online to newsmax.com for breaking headlines. Millions more have downloaded the free Newsmax app on their smartphone and home TV. Reuters says Newsmax is one of the top news brands in America. Even President Trump says Newsmax is terrific, and he's watching. Tens of millions of Americans like you have made the switch to Newsmax for the news they can trust. So make the switch today. You won't ever look back.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66, and then a warm, breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. Not out of the question. That's why it's a First Alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more First Alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Getting new flooring can be exciting, or it can be a hassle. To make sure you have a great experience, use Michaels Flooring, like I did. Hi, it's Susie Moore, and Michaels Flooring has become my go-to for quality, variety, and an all-around great experience. They've been locally owned and operated for more than 30 years. Carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, natural stone, luxury vinyl, it doesn't matter. Michaels Flooring is ready to help. 3 locations to pick from: St. Peter's, Darting Prairie, and Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloor.com. That's igotfloor.com.
Are the days of a personal doctor gone? Not at Body of Health Direct Primary Care. I'm Dr. Randy Tobler to share how our design is putting the care back into healthcare. Plain and simple, our members, not insurance companies, get our exclusive focus. That means same or next day appointments, responsive answers to your concerns, and a no-spin, big tool chest approach. It's about time you get serious time devoted to your medical needs. To learn about healthcare the way it ought to be, schedule a discovery call today at bodyofhealth.com. That's bodyofhealth.com.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the Morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Company, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge could hold a Trump administration official in contempt of court for defying deportation orders?
We are complying with all court orders. So I see what you're trying to do there with that question, but we're very confident that every action taken by this administration is within the confines of the law. I'm not sure what is so difficult about this for everyone in the media to understand. And it's appalling, truly appalling, that there has been so much time covering this alleged human trafficker and this gang member.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Carolyn Levitt laying down some of the law right there. And we talked with Steve Bucci about that in the last hour. If you missed that, podcast available wherever you find podcasts. Chris, I mean, it seems to be pretty straightforward and simplistic. Why the Democrats are making a giant Mount Everest out of this molehill is beyond me. I just don't see this as a winning argument for American voters in 2026.
Insane. And I think if I'm correct, Tim, the mother that was at the White House yesterday, whose daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant, I think she is a citizen of Maryland. So her senator is advocating for an illegal immigrant who is accused of domestic abuse, flies down to El Salvador to advocate for this guy. And now you also have members of Congress thinking about doing it as well, using their own private money.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And I think the most embarrassing thing was the fact that the U.S. Senator Van Hollen from Maryland, who apparently doesn't care much about Rachel Morin's family, but does care about this deported El Salvadoran citizen, he was denied access to this foreign national that he's trying to, quote, rescue and bring back to the United States. The whole thing's bizarre.
Yeah, and to them, they'll count that as a win because they can say that, hey, I'm trying to advocate for my constituent. It shows you what type of environment this is, what type of prison this is. This guy's a strong man. He's a dictator. Won't let me see this guy. It's a human rights abuser prison. So that'll play into their narrative, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sure will. We've got a jam-packed second hour before we hand you off to Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA, of course, every evening, immediately following the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Go nowhere. We've got tons of great programs from 5:30 in the morning until 8 o'clock at night. We are live and local with all the great names in St. Louis that you've come to know and love, from Larry Connors through Jamie Ullman, Mike Ferguson, Chris and I, Tony Colombo, Vic and Ken. What a great lineup.
Not only
truly live and local.
Not only do we have a great lineup and we have great personalities, but we have great events. I mean, we just have to pat ourselves on the back.
We do.
I mean, we've had 6 or 7 of them. They've all been sold out.
Yes,
to the gills.
We've done tons of events. We had an awesome one last night. If you missed it, we'll have more events coming up. Last night, we brought wrestler Kane, formerly known as Kane, now known as Mayor Glenn Jacobs of Knox County, Tennessee, came in, had a wonderful discussion with Mike Ferguson, leading the questioning about tax policy, about wrestling. They covered the entire gamut of things. We had a jam-packed room at the Funny Bone. I dare say it was pretty much a sold-out crowd. The special guest star, Eric Schmidt, U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt, made a cameo. You never know what those senators, what their schedules are, when they can show up. And of course, there's all these ridiculous protesters, trolling them. So we didn't know until like almost the last minute that Eric was going to show up. It was great to see him. And I heard he did. Chris, I wasn't there for that. I heard he did fantastic.
He did fantastic. The crowd, Missourians love their senator. They know that he is in D.C. working hard for them. Also want to give a shout out to Kane. The cat stayed after an hour after the event, signing autographs, signing world championship wrestling belts, pictures, action figures.
Yes.
It was the whole nine. It was just amazing just sitting there watching it.
And you know what he did afterwards? After all that, he didn't say, I have to go back to my hotel room. I ended up going to dinner with the AFP. The AFP folks said, hey, since you were late, you just got here. Why don't you hang out with us for a little? We're going to go to dinner. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. Kane came to dinner too. We had like 20 people, and I didn't know this either, Chris. The AFP folks, Americans for Prosperity Missouri, they considered this a huge deal, not only for their Missouri chapter. They brought in a bunch of upper level senior staffers from around the country. Gary Hollis is our state director here for AFP Missouri. He brought in a fellow who's like the regional guy, and I may have met him. I couldn't remember. And he made some comments at dinner. He said, you all did a fantastic job. Thanks to News Talk STL. And this was one of the biggest events that AFP, not just AFP Missouri, the AFP has done this year. And it was remarkable. Thank you so much. So we impressed some folks beyond Missouri as well.
And to prove how important this is to AFP, if those of you are on Facebook and are connected to all of us, especially state representatives up there, Kane, Mayor Jacobs was at the Capitol this afternoon. So there were a bunch of people getting pictures with him and taking videos and getting his autograph and everything. So he's on the tour, native Missourian, to help us eliminate our state income tax. Tim.
And you know what was cool? Even though we were all here today in St. Louis following our event, we had a News Talk STL auxiliary member, Nick Schroer, ended up being Kane's chaperone around the Capitol today. So Nick and his chief of staff, Eric, who run one of the weekend programs here, Stand and Fight. Nick Schroer every Sunday night, part of SR1 Radio, which is here on Sunday nights. News Talk STL ended up being a part of the event in Jefferson City today as well, which is very cool. So, and thank you to the listeners. So impressive that so many people turned out, and our listeners are so kind. And they all came up to all of us afterwards and were shaking our hands and wanting to meet us and talk to us. We thank you, because without you, there's no us. And we want you to continue to listen and patronize our advertisers. So many of our advertisers, nearly all of them, are local, independently owned small businesses.
Tim, help me figure this out. Okay, there were a number of African Americans that were the event last night.
I noticed. You were not alone.
I was not alone. I don't know.
I spotted one.
Did you? Yep. I don't know how many of them. I don't know how many of them were actual listeners of the station, but somehow found out that Kane was going to be at this event. That's what it kind of seemed like. I'm not saying we don't have African American listeners, because we do.
We do.
But I was giving out my card to some of these folks, and hey, listen to our show, and they were like, "Ooh, what are you talking about?" So, my question is, how did they find out that Kane was going to be at this event? Because this is kind of conservative circles how this was.
I have some speculation.
Okay.
And then Joey will probably tell us the truth, because he always does. I always speculate, and then Joey knows this world. So I think, Chris, I will bet you that, like with every major industry that has a cult following, I'll bet you there's WWE fan clubs, bulletin boards, social media, and I'll bet you word spreads like wildfire when these wrestling heroes show up and do an appearance. And so maybe that's how they found out.
People had action figures,
everything.
They had
the whole
belts,
9 yards,
belts. I mean, it was everything that they wanted to get signed. And I was like, I'm glad to see my people here, but I know all these brothers ain't listening.
And some young guys, some young guys too. Maybe now they will listen to us. Joey, what do you think?
Well, I think I was sitting behind Martin Baker. Did you see him?
I
there?
did see Martin Baker.
I'm sure he knows all the black people and told them all to come out.
Not.
So Joey says Martin Baker is responsible.
I love
for
Martin, but I don't think Martin was responsible.
Okay. That's a good guess, though, Joey.
But I was curious. I was curious what how did they find out about this?
Well, and in general, I saw some folks, not to stereotype anybody, but I also saw some folks of all different persuasions, and I was like, that a News Talk STL listener,
Yeah.
So, but you know what?
You mean the black girl with the pink hair?
No, I was thinking about some of the other, well, maybe her too.
And there was a black girl there with pink hair.
She had very,
she got the last picture with Kane.
She had very pink hair.
And she hugged him. I mean, she was like really enamored with him and hugged him the whole nine.
Fangirl. Yeah. Thank you all for coming out. We don't care how you found us. We're glad you found us. And between us and between our popularity, Kane's popularity, AFP Missouri's following, and grassroots folks, We filled the place
Yeah, it's
wall
packed.
to wall. And we'll do more events. We have an event next week, actually 2 events. Chris and I are doing with Joey, we're doing a live remote at Berry Hill Golf Course. We'll have to do a little putting contest. Maybe.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, we can do a little putting contest because we really can't play golf while we're on the air, but maybe we can putt a little bit. We're doing Berry Hill next Wednesday, and then we are hosting an event at Lindenwood University with the Hammond Institute. And Mike was talking about that this morning, interviewing the special guest star who's going to talk about tariffs. Tariffs. Are they terrible or are they terrific? He's going to talk about that next Thursday.
And we'd like you all to come out to Berry Hill Golf Course next week. We're not expecting a lot of people to come out for a golf course remote, but who knows? Come on out and get some clubs, get your lessons. Who knows?
I invited Wesley Bell. I don't know if he's going to respond, but
He's in Washington.
He's in charge of that district. I think he owes it to us to come out, right?
He should. I hear it's a little gem of a 9-hole course. I love those little courses.
Oh yeah.
There's a little course. There's another little hidden gem called Baldwin Municipal. It's tucked into Baldwin. You wouldn't even know where it is. Same kind of concept. And a bunch of my buddies, my older guy friends who make the circuit, and they're all retired. They call it Baldwin National.
I got a little 9-hole course right by my house, walking distance. Ruth, what is it? New City Municipal Golf.
Great little tracks.
Yeah.
Great little tracks. It's good to have those courses because we want golf. I think golf's a great game. It's a great game to build camaraderie and honesty and teach about the facts of life. It's great to have it accessible to everyone, not just highfalutin country clubs, So
and the Clayton golf team goes over. That's where they practice over there at the golf course.
It's a legit course.
Oh yeah,
yeah, very good.
Been around since the 50s. It's been around a long time.
We have some ancient golf courses in St. Louis. The 2 most famous old ones being Glen Echo and Norwood Hills, who argue with each other about who was the first course officially west of the Mississippi because they were both built around the same time.
What's the golf course that was in that general area, but it's now going to become a subdivision? And it was an old golf course.
Was it Normandy?
Normandy might have.
Was it Normandy?
Yeah.
Jack Nicklaus is revamping Normandy because it's so old. But
okay,
I don't know if
so
it's the one over by Marlboro.
Yeah,
Tower T.
No, it's off of St. Charles Rock Road.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the Normandy area, but maybe they're revamping it. But unfortunately, Chris, we lose golf courses all the time.
Yeah.
There was a famous one out by me, believe it or not, out in the suburbs, out in the hinterlands. There was one called Cherry Hills.
Yeah, I remember
that was in Wildwood. And
I remember Cherry Hills. That's gone?
Gone.
A lot of when I worked at UPS back in the day, a lot of UPSers used to play Cherry Hill.
Gone.
So
Hidden Valley. Hidden Valley had a golf course in
Yeah.
addition to the ski
Yeah.
slope. Golf course is gone. They just decided it was too much work to do to maintain a ski resort and a golf course. But there's been new courses that have popped up in the area as well that are really nice. There's a couple nice ones further west out in Franklin County. Wolf Hollow is really nice, public course. And there's another one out there right off of Interstate 44. I'll think of it in a minute. So, yeah. Hey, 518 in the Heartland, and we've got Stacy Washington, an old friend of many of us here at the station. She's going to join us at 5:25-ish. She is on Sirius XM Radio, and she's a Salem TV host. We have an affiliation, of course, with Salem Media because we run Town Hall News, and of course, we've got Susie Moore from Red State. We're going to talk to Stacy about what she's been up to lately and her new book, Eternally Cancel Proof, a guide for courageous Christians navigating the political battlefront.
We need that today.
There we go. Indeed. Before we get to that, I thought we would do a little reason for the season. I could sit here and pontificate more on some of the horrific news headlines of the day, but you know what? Let's be a little glass half full today, a little optimistic as we head into the Easter Triduum, those 3 days before Easter. Of course, today is Maundy Thursday, Holy Thursday. We have Good Friday. There's a reason they call it Good Friday. I'll talk about that tomorrow. We have Holy Saturday, and then, of course, Easter Sunday. So I found a neat little editorial that was published many years ago in the Wall Street Journal by one of my favorite Catholics, Timothy Cardinal Dolan. Love Cardinal Dolan. And I thought we would recite that today as part of today's Speaker Stump Speech.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
We hear all the doom and gloom about religion, organized religion, about Christianity, about Judaism, and about many of these organized religions. We hear the doom and gloom, like 364 days of the year, right? We hear about how people are turning away from religion. People don't believe in God. Our society is going to heck in a handbasket. Our culture is morally bankrupt. And then every year, like clockwork, despite all of that, so many Americans of all persuasions flock to church pews to sit in them for an entire hour or so on Easter Sunday. If people don't believe in God, if they don't believe in Jesus, if Christianity or Judaism, or whatever your religion of higher powerness is, if all of that is just bunk and junk, why do many people around the globe, why do they feel like they need to go to church on Easter Sunday? Is it kind of an insurance policy? Are they thinking to themselves, well, just in case, I'll go ahead and I'll give whatever omnipotent presence I believe is out there that might possibly be out there, just in case it's there. I better honor whatever God I may or may not believe in on this one day. But why do they go to Christian churches? Why do they celebrate the resurrection of someone from well over 2,000 years ago? Well, Wall Street Journal editorial written back about a couple years ago, actually, no, last year this time, by Timothy Cardinal Dolan, explains why some of the reasons why churches are packed on Easter Sunday. Cardinal Dolan says this: there's no denying it. Many Americans no longer consider themselves members of any religion. They may believe in God and the power of prayer. Many say they seek spirituality, but more and more check none when asked their creed. Some of the survey findings are as dreary as that first Good Friday afternoon on a hill outside Jerusalem. True, on Easter Sunday, the pews will be jammed. Christians of wavering commitment frequently, quote, come home for Easter and Christmas, as Chris was intimating earlier, much as many Jews return to synagogues around their high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. While some of my fellow pastors might wonder out loud where these people are the other 50 Sundays of the year, or refer with mild irritation to the Birth and Resurrection Club, I like that, I'm always heartened to see them. I do worry, though, as I note people drifting from the family of the church. Faith is deeply personal, but it isn't private. By its nature, faith is communal. A congregation's a spiritual family. Many use that word family loosely to mean any group of like-minded friends from which any member can part ways for any reason. A biological family doesn't work like that. It's unchosen, it's permanent, and loyalty to it doesn't wane with preference or mood. Members of a spiritual family likewise bear an obligation to remain a part of it. This isn't just my opinion. In the scriptures, it's clear God prefers to form a people, a community, not simply a collection of atomized individuals. Faith must always be internalized, but it should also always be expressed, strengthened, lived out with others. In the ancient Near East, the Lord called a people the descendants of Abraham. In the first century, Jesus and Christian teaching, that same Lord, he formed the church, a people, no longer bound by race, but instead united by his blood. People tell us they want to believe but not belong, that they want faith but not religion, that they prefer spirituality, whatever that might mean, to communal worship. They seem to want God as a father but to remain an only child. Jesus says the good shepherd if they're the only lamb in the flock. They want a God by themselves, Christ without his church. To practice religion means very little if its practitioners are secluded from each other. Remaining true to one's religious convictions is always a challenge. To do it alone is nigh impossible. To do it with others is a boost. When Christians worship at their best, their wandering brothers and sisters tend to come home. And that's the Speaker Stump speech for today.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned spirituality and the lack of, and I was going to question Stacy about this, but a new report came out on religion and only 9% of millennials identify with any type of religion compared to 31% for baby boomers. So.
Yeah, that's an excellent point to make. And hopefully our younger generations, some of them will have a return to that cultural aspect of communal Christianity and celebrating together.
We need it.
All right. Well, think about that, folks, as you head to church, whether you go every week of every year, or whether you're a Creaster, a Christmas and Easter Christian. Hey, we're going to talk to Stacy Washington about some of these heavy cultural and political issues when we return here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You know I like to keep my cheeks dry today.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66. And then a warm, breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. Is not out of the question. That's why it's a First Alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more First Alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Hey everybody, it's your buddy Todd Showalter from the Right Mind Show, along with my buddy Joey V. And remember, we're not on just Saturdays at 5. Now we're on Sundays at 2.
Putting the fun in our dysfunctional world. It's the Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter.
Hey, folks, we had Todd Sivia in here yesterday. We talked about the importance of planning. We talked about how, going to a lawyer when it's a crisis moment, a chaotic moment. Yeah, the lawyer's going to help you, but they can help you a lot better if you go and visit them and prepare for life's transitions and challenges before there's a crisis in your life. Hey, and we practice what we preach, right? Do what Chris and Becky have done. Do what I have done with Suzanne, and have a trust document prepared. Have some estate planning prepared. And, you can determine whether or not you need an estate plan and what kind of plan you need by simply going and speaking with Todd Sivia. He would be happy to speak with you about everything that you're facing in your family. Sivia Law is available 24/7 at civialaw.com. Yeah, that's civialaw.com. They do lots of work in the estate planning department, but they do more. They can help you with elder law needs. So many of us are in that, what we say, that sandwich generation, where we're taking care of our parents or the important senior citizens in our life. And we're also taking care of children, and some may be taking care of grandchildren as well. So they can help you with elder law. They can help you with special needs if you have an important special needs child in your life. They can help you with fun things like real estate, picking up some real estate options. A lot of people are doing that these days. Well, you should do some legal planning for that. If you have a business, you should absolutely be doing some legal planning. Don't just go to a lawyer when your business is having a problem or you're having a dispute with someone. Do that business planning on the front end with Todd Sivia and all his gang at Sivia Law. They're all over the Metro East and in the St. Louis region. I think Todd yesterday said he has like 7 offices up and down Interstate 70, one near you. And he's available 24/7. You can always get a hold of him, leave a message. They'll call you right back. 833-995-WILL, 833-995-WILL. And you can check out everything Sivia Law has to offer you, all the things I mentioned, and so much more at civialaw.com. That's civialaw.com.
Are uneven concrete surfaces causing you headaches? Polytime Concrete Leveling and Restoration has the solution. We're a veteran and family-owned business offering long-lasting solutions for all your concrete problems. From precision concrete leveling to our superior restoration services, our precision polyjacking outperforms traditional mudjacking any day. Call Polytime at 636-487-3282 for a free estimate, or visit itspolytime.com. Mention Newstock STL and get $125 off any job of $600 or more, or 10% off your service.
I'm Danny Cohn, CEO of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. I want to share a bit about Passover, especially for those who may have friends, neighbors, or coworkers observing this meaningful Jewish holiday. Passover tells the story of Moses and the Israelites' journey from slavery to freedom in ancient Egypt. It is a time for family, reflection, and honoring traditions passed down through generations. Many families gather for a Seder, a special meal filled with symbolism and questions that spark conversation and learning. No matter what you celebrate this season, appreciating each other's cultures and traditions helps us build a more connected, compassionate St. Louis. So from our Jewish community to yours, Happy Easter, Ramadan Mubarak, and Chag Pesach Sameach. Happy Passover.
I'm Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey. Human trafficking is occurring right here in Missouri. You can help combat it by learning the signs of human trafficking and reporting suspicious activity to law enforcement. Victims may appear malnourished, show signs of mental or physical abuse, or avoid social interaction. If you're a victim or know someone who needs help, contact the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888 or text the word HELP to Be Free. Together, we can fight human trafficking in Missouri.
Brought to you by the Missouri Attorney General's Office.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Right, you're bloody well right. You got a bloody right to say. Right, you're bloody well right. You know you got a right to say.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Well, right, you know you're right to say. Yeah, you're bloody well right. You know you're right to say.
Beautiful.
Oh, a dear friend.
She's a beautiful woman. She's been through hell. She's been through hell, right?
Oh, yes.
Your daughter's looking down proud of you. You know that. Just keep it going.
I know.
Keep it going.
It's like you,
Stay with that one.
it's like you said, we have a purpose.
It's a purpose. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
She's proud of you.
And welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. It is 5:31 in the p.m., April 17th, 2025. Chris, that was the mother of deceased Rachel Morin. That was the mother of Rachel Morin in the Oval Office, and Donald Trump was giving her a big, compassionate hug.
And unfortunately, she is one of too many stories in this country of illegal aliens murdering, raping, and hurting Americans.
Let's bring in our next guest to talk about that and the dichotomy of what the rest of the media was reporting. It wasn't that. Stacy Washington, Sirius XM Radio Salem TV host. She's got a book out as well, Eternally Cancel Proof, a guide for courageous Christians navigating the political battlefront. You can find her, Stacy on the Right, on Twitter X. Stacy, great to speak with you again. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome.
Wonderful to be with you both, old friends, all of us local St. Louisans. Thank you. Thanks for having me in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Stacy, how about that dichotomy? How about that split screen of Donald Trump trying to console a mom who has lost her daughter through a horrific crime caused by an illegal alien? You got that image, which most of the media has failed to report on in any way whatsoever. But you have the media hyperventilating about the need to return an El Salvadoran citizen, an adjudicated criminal, at least a member of a criminal gang, back to the United States of America. Your comments on that dichotomy?
Well, I talk on the program a lot about what happens when these illegal aliens are allowed to run rampant through our communities. They're not deported. They're instead given Social Security cards and border cards, and they're able to spend more money, more disposable income than the average American family. And if they want to commit a crime because they're gang members, MS-13 is one of the most brutal, violent gangs on the entire planet, then they do that. And then you have moms like Patty Morin, who she's not going to bed with the dry pillow anytime soon. And she's never going to wake up and hear Rachel's voice again. She's never going to spend time with her daughter. She's never going to have a wild idea or think of a joke and text her daughter and get a response back. She's been robbed of her child. And she deserves everything she's getting right now, recognition from President Trump, the hugs, the support, but none of it will bring that girl back. And we should not have the Lake and Rileys, the Marin family, the Nungray family. None of these families should be suffering right now because we have enough of our own criminals without bringing in criminals from foreign countries and allowing them to victimize Americans as well. So, it's very, very heartfelt. It's a wonderful thing to see President Trump acknowledging her and elevating her story since the media won't.
Stacy, you have written a second book, Eternally Cancel Proof, a guide for courageous Christians navigating the political battlefront, and we need this today. I want to ask you, as an African-American, do you share this same frustration that I have, that African-Americans are probably the most spiritual, most religious people in the United States? On Sunday, we're screaming in the pews, God is able, God can do anything, can't stop us. But Monday through Saturday, white people have all the power and control, and we can't do anything. It astounds me that our people don't see that contradiction.
Well, I mean, we do have amazing buying power in the Black community of America, but I tend to, as I've heard you speak many times, Chris, I tend to see this more as an American versus the Marxist ideology that tells Black Americans, Hispanics, anybody who's not white, they tell you you're actually a victim. If you're white, you're a victim of your parents, or you're a victim of the patriarchy, or men are victimizing you. At the end of the day, everyone's a victim, or the few that are left are oppressors, even if they've never done anything like that before. And this kind of division is what makes it possible for them to then pit us against each other on issues we should be actually working together on, like healthcare reform. That's something every American should be able to say, for the discussion surrounding healthcare reform, I'm neither a Republican or a Democrat. The border, same thing. Tariffs, we should not be left-right on tariffs. Tariffs used to fund everything in this country. Now they fund it on the first quarter of the year. You, Chris, you, Tim, me, all of us working and paying taxes for the first quarter of every year to satisfy our federal tax burden, local, state. You buy a car, you pay tax on it every year you own it. You buy a house, you pay tax on it every year you own it, even after it's paid off. We are taxed to death. And so I'd love to see us have that same kind of spirit you're talking about on Sundays. On Sundays in America, lots of voices are ringing out. Black, white, Asian, everyone who wants to, we're free to worship or not, goes into a church house. Maybe you're going on Saturday night, you're worshiping, you're praying for our country, for your family. There are some things that are extremely partisan that shouldn't be at this point. And I pray to God that we can find our way back to each other as people of the same country, so we can work to protect each other and use our considerable wealth and ingenuity to solve our problems. We have problems that can be solved, but Democrats are very successful at dividing us.
Speaking to Stacy Washington, she's at Stacy on the Right on Twitter X, also Stacy on the Right on Instagram. And Stacy, I wanted to ask you, I know you, I know you often, because I've heard you speak on this, where you try to get into the mind of the liberal, right? Explain to our audience members, I know you, with your audience, just trying to explain what they do. And I've been we've been talking about this a lot this week, Chris and I have, about why is it that the left continues to triple and quadruple down on these 80% issues, some of which you just mentioned, right? It seems that most Americans have decided firmly that we don't want an illegal alien invasion. We don't want criminal illegal aliens to be wandering around our communities anymore. We don't want biological men in women's sports, but they seem to have not gotten the memo. What do you think is up with that? Have some of them just gone so far off the progressive leftward cliff that they just can't pull themselves back up?
Well, I love what you said there, Tim. 80% issues. That was one of the high marks for immigration during the Biden years. They actually had a survey that showed that 80% of Americans want people who are in the country deported, and they don't make a difference between whether or not they're so-called criminals or not. Because as you and I both know, if you're in the country illegally, your first criminal act was entry. Your second criminal act is you're working without authorization. You're also stealing housing and benefits and local services from Americans as you access those things yourself. So the person is a multiple-time felon, but we're listening to the left describe them as, the Maryland dad. He was just a dad. No, he was an MS-13 member. He was a human trafficker. He was a wife beater. He was the worst kind of person to have here in this country. And now he's in prison in El Salvador, where he belongs. He's actually wanted for criminal acts there too. So I think the big push, as I describe it, I've heard both of you describe it, is that we need more conversation. We need to sit down with each other and kind of take off our partisan hats, discuss what we think the best ideas would be, and then come back again. If it gets too heated, table it, come back again. We are able to solve things at the local level. We've seen it. We've had some pretty amazing developments over the past 10 years in the state of Missouri on some issues that we've gotten together on. On other issues where we remain divided, we have not had solutions. And so we actually could do some really amazing things together. We sometimes will see that where someone on the left, look at the First Step Act in the last Trump administration. That was the least likely group of individuals, but they came together and they made something great happen. And I think we can see it again. The Democrats are on the wrong side of the immigration issue. In fact, I feel like they dove in with both feet to defend this man who's clearly a violent criminal. They traveled to El Salvador to get him back. They're still working it through the courts, trying to get a judge to hold a Trump administration official in contempt. And all of this, instead of working on solving problems for Americans. They're paid by Americans to solve American problems. So I just look forward to they're continuing to spin out. They're having a tough time. And I'm enjoying President Trump being in office. It's buzzsaw Trump this term. He's amazing. He's moving at the speed of light. His wife is dressed to kill for the specificness of serving the country for a second time. And everybody on the administration, they're just so single-minded. They've been working on this for 4 years, and now they get to do what they planned, what they worked for over the 4-year term that he wasn't in. I hate what President Biden did when he was in office, but I love what President Trump is doing in setting things right. And we have a bright future ahead of us as Americans, not just Republicans or Democrats, but as Americans.
Speaking with Stacy Washington, Sirius XM radio and Salem TV host and author of the new book, Eternally Cancel Proof, a guide for courageous Christians navigating the political battlefront. Stacy, you're quoted in your book saying that you've always considered yourself a Christian, but didn't always have a biblical worldview. I share that belief or that kind of experience as well. Expound on that.
Well, I kind of stumbled on the biblical worldview test. That was something that Focus on the Family put that out. I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And I stumbled on the test online. I took the test real quick because it's only like 8 or 9 questions, and I include that in the book. And I was like, okay, I do have a biblical worldview. But then I went to the Barna Group, which they used to be off on their own. Now they're under the umbrella of Arizona Christian University. And they have all this data showing that only 4% of Christians at the time have a biblical worldview. Now that number has gone up, thank God. But the idea that Christians don't actually know what it is that we believe, we love God. We believe in Jesus. But then everything else is a form of syncretism, which is where you take a little bit from Hindu, you take a little Islam, you take a little this, little that, put a little yoga in it, smash it together, and there's your Christianity. Well, that's not actually what God has called us to. So I'm not speaking from above anyone or at anyone where I'm this perfect Christian. I wrote the book because we all need to know why we believe what we believe. The Bible says to have a reason for the hope that lies within you. And you're supposed to be able to tell other people why are you a Christian? Just tell them why. God has been real to me. Jesus saved me. I'm a better person now because I'm a wife and a mom and a Christian. I wouldn't be the same person without him. Be able to quantify that. And we should be living lives that make other people say, what is that thing? Like, your kids are really nice to you. You're nice to your kids. What is that? And instead of getting all, fancy pants, that's, we've taken some classes and we go to Bible. No, it's Jesus. What you're looking at that you like is Jesus. And the rest of it that you don't like is me. Obviously still needing to go to Bible study and keep working on myself. But Jesus is the thing that you're seeing that you're like, wow, that's kind of neat. And so let me introduce you to this dude because he's the best. He's going to change your life for the better, and you're going to have more joy and more peace. And that I don't have to be responsible for it, Chris. Back in the beginning when I first met you, I always felt like I had to have my arguments on point if I was debating someone on the left, because I felt like that would be what would convince them. Sure. And ultimately, there's name calling and they're denying what you're saying. It's the truth, but they're denying it anyway. It doesn't matter how great your arguments are. And I had to learn to let go of the responsibility of the success of telling the truth, because I didn't write the Constitution. I did not write any part of the Bible. I'm not responsible for those documents. I know much of what they say. I try to always be correct in my presentation, but at the end of the day, the convincing is up to God, whether or not a person is going to listen. And so I should be willing to, as often as I share a political argument, ask someone, you know what, that sounds rough. Can I pray with you? Offer them an opportunity to go to coffee and talk about it again in the future. Something that is relationship-based beyond just arguing about politics. And it's taken me a while to get here, and I'm not even all the way there yet. But I share about it in the book because I want us to be comfortable in telling the truth. I don't want us to fear being canceled. And I also want us to be joyous because, we only get this one day, right? We don't know if we're getting tomorrow. Right. So today is the day. Then tomorrow, if we're blessed enough to get up, that's our day. And we don't know how many days we're going to get. We don't know how many opportunities we're going to have to strike out and be kind to each other. If it presents itself, we want to jump in. And so this is our life. Like, this is the only one we're getting. And I just want to have the joy and assurance and peace of knowing that I'm doing as best I can what God called me to do. And so, the book is about that. It's so much of the political party platforms. I compare them to scripture. And I just hope that people will read it and be encouraged and then feel free to just be free to live and share and not feel like you have to be responsible for whether or not someone else believes the truth when you share it with them. because it's none of ours. None of us wrote the Bible. Thank God we didn't have to write the Bible. You know?
Exactly.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen indeed. Stacy, wonderful conversation.
Great
Wish we had
conversation.
more time. We'll have to definitely have you back. I really enjoyed reconnecting with you. Thanks for joining us here on News Talk STL. Folks, you can check her out in multiple
Thank you,
places.
guys.
Yep.
Wonderful to be with you.
Thank you so much, Stacy. Have a very happy Easter.
Thank you, Stacy.
At Stacy Washington, Sirius XM Radio, Salem TV host. You can find her, Stacy on the Right on Twitter X, Stacy on the Right.
Sounds like a very interesting book, Eternally Cancel Proof, a guide for courageous Christians navigating the political battlefront. I know my wife is listening. She does all the shopping. So, Becky, can you order that book for me on Amazon? Thank you, dear.
Indeed. And it is available there. I just checked, and it's up there, and it gets high marks. Gets some fantastic reviews. We got one segment left. Woo. We're going to tell you all about, we're going to review Larry Connors USA. We're going to tell you what's coming up on his program at 6:05.
And I got a master surprise for you.
Master surprise, some other very interesting, fascinating tidbits, which means you're going to want to go nowhere. I'm really curious to hear what Chris has to say about the Masters. We have got Larry Connors USA and all of his items to tell you about, and so much more when we return. Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, 1019, 94.1 News Talk STL.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
We are the wild and crazy guys. Magic girl, I know I shouldn't say where. In the meantime, push babe.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. Overnight tonight, staying dry and milder, low of 66, and then a warm breezy day, a high of 84. Just watch for a strong storm, especially by the evening in St. Louis. An isolated storm, mainly producing hail. Not out of the question. That's why it's a First Alert weather day for Friday, focused on a severe threat in the evening. Then rounds of heavy rain from Saturday into Sunday. 2 to 5 inches of rainfall over the weekend could create some flooding. So more First Alert weather days. Looks like the severe threat should stay mainly south on Saturday, high of 66. On Sunday, though, let's watch for a chance of severe storms and a high of 71 for Easter Sunday afternoon. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors USA.
Judge Bozo the Clown is back in the news as once again he's claiming that Trump violated federal law.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
You're all like, come on, Jones, you're nuts. What do we need a sprinkler system? What do we need irrigation for? It's been raining cats and dogs the last few months. Yeah, it's called spring in the heartland. And you know what comes after spring in the heartland? Summer in the heartland, when we don't have much rain and everything dries out, and your beautiful green lawn that is you're so proud of in April and May suddenly is a complete parched tumbleweed wilderness. You know how you can prevent that? With Hydrodynamics Core. Hydrodynamicscore.com. Why do I say that? Well, because they're the first commercial and residential lawn irrigation company that was ever formed in St. Louis. They've been around for over 52 years, established in 1973. They know irrigation. And no project is too big or too small. They do everything from residential subdivision homes to giant McMansion properties to huge commercial facilities as well. Anybody that has turf, that has lawn care needs, they can help take care of, and they'll make it even better. This time of year, for all of you who already have irrigation systems, sprinkler systems, you need to be doing two things. First of all, you need to do three things. You need to contact Hydrodynamics Core, hydrodynamicscore.com. You need to ask them to do a full system activation and check on your system. We do that every year. It's extremely important. Saves you a ton of time and money and heartache and pain in the long run, because if you maintain these systems, they last for decades extremely well. And your annual backflow testing. You got to have that done. And in many counties in our region, it's required by rule and regulation. So hydrodynamicscore.com can help you out with that as well. If you need other services, they've got them. Premium turf management, outdoor lighting, service and installation, drainage solutions, and hardscaping. What the heck's hardscaping? That's your retaining walls, your patios, your walkways, your edging, your outdoor, all those big giant jobs that you probably don't have the time to do yourself. They'll do it for you extremely economically at Hydrodynamics Core. Once again, hydrodynamicscore.com for all your irrigation needs and more. Hydrodynamicscore.com, hydrodynamicscore.com.
Hey, it's Vic. Are you worried about rising taxes? Well, you're not alone. With government spending outpacing revenue, many Americans fear a tax hike is on the horizon. But here's the good news. You have options. Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management specializes in tax-efficient strategies for income planning, legacy, and growth. Chris knows your money will go to one of three places: the government, healthcare, or your family and charities. Shouldn't your loved ones come first? Don't let Uncle Sam be your biggest beneficiary. Take control of your financial future today. Visit serenitynowtax.com for your free copy of Chris's book, The New Holistic Retirement. Serenity Wealth Management, because you deserve peace of mind in retirement. Request your free book today at serenitynowtax.com. That's serenitynowtax.com to get your free copy of The New Holistic Retirement. That's serenitynowtax.com. Serenity Now with Chris Cooper.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Hi, this is St. Louis County Councilman Mark Harder reminding you to check out my new show this weekend.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
That's me. Every Sunday evening at 5, we will explore with you behind-the-scenes stories and information that you won't hear anywhere else. Plus, we talk to decision makers and influencers that have impact on what's going on in St. Louis County and beyond.
The St. Louis County Insider with Councilman Mark Harder.
I'll talk to you Sunday night at 5, only on News Talk STL.
Psst. Want to hear the best kept secret in St. Louis? Staff's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares. According to our customers, we have the best St. Louis style pizza anywhere. And we can't disagree. Dine in, pick up, or delivery at all three Steph's Pizza locations. In Lake St. Louis at 111 Potterfort Trail, St. Peter's on Juggerman, and in St. Charles on Zumbel. Check us out at Steph'sPizza.com. Steph's Pizza. We're not afraid to compare squares.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars.
It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
What spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand.
I fought for this country. There are many people in this room that fought for this country. I flew 55 combat air missions in Baghdad in an Apache helicopter because I do not want to see animals in our country terrorize my fellow Americans. And for the record, this is the greatest country in the world. That's why there's 20 million people trying to enter it illegally. So therefore, we bear an even greater responsibility to keep these animals from entering our country to protect you, the American public. That's our job. President Trump won, and he was given a mandate for that very reason. He promised to protect us and put our priorities first. It is just that simple.
5:53, and that is why, even though the president's fortunes are falling just a little bit right now, he's still pretty popular when it comes to immigration and the border. Those numbers have not dropped at all. Tim, before we get to the Masters, I got to ask you about this story in Missouri Scout today, which I found very, very interesting.
Okay.
Kiera Johnson, maybe I'm pronouncing that correctly. She's a staffer to Senator Angela Mosley, a Democrat. She announced she's running for House seat 60 of a term limited person. That's no big deal. But she's running as a Republican.
Yes.
And she's black.
Yes.
So this either tells me, one, that this is a Republican seat and she knows that she can't win as a Democrat. And so that's why she's doing this, or is she a Republican plant within the Democratic Party and you haven't told us about this? And what's the deal here?
I've only met, I have met her. I have met her in person, kind of accidentally. Believe it or not, I think
is she legit?
That Senator Mosley has some center-right tendencies.
Really? Okay.
Now, Senator Mosley, and I'm not trying to disparage Senator Mosley. She's probably like, Jones, stop calling me a conservative. I'm not saying that. But Chris, you and Stacy just talked about the fact that in the African-American and the black community, there's a lot of small C conservative attitudes and beliefs. But if you live in a very blue area, you're not getting elected if you're running as a Republican. So I will say this. Senator Mosley visits with Senator Nick Schroer quite a bit. They are friends. I find that interesting. And Kiera, the young lady you just mentioned, is a delightful and very smart young lady. I've gotten to speak with her like 2 or 3 times at the Capitol. She's extremely friendly. She's always got a big smile on her face. And we asked her about this.
Yeah, you think she's Republican?
We asked her about this. Well, Chris, she's from mid-Missouri.
Okay.
So she lives in mid-Missouri.
Okay.
I don't know if she was born and raised there or not, but she may have some good old-fashioned Midwestern, mid-Missouri values. And she knows that if she's going to run for the House, yes, she's going to have to do it as a Republican in mid-Missouri. And we won't know where her heart and soul is until she starts voting if she gets elected. But she's made comments about things like school choice and taxation that lead me to believe that she has a legitimate center-right philosophy.
Should we take a chance on her? That's the thing.
Man, I'll tell you what. You talk about that big tent, and she'd be a perfect person to add to the circus in Jefferson City, and could be a breath of fresh air. Or we could be completely getting screwed.
Okay. Well, that's an endorsement from former House Speaker Tim. You endorsing her? I'm just messing with you.
I have no idea who else is running, Chris.
I'm just messing with you.
But I like what I see.
All right, let's talk.
Kira.
All right, let's talk about this Masters news here. Rory McIlroy's dramatic Masters win on Sunday, Tim, was the most watched golf broadcast on any network since 2018. According to CBS, it surpassed Tiger Woods' come-from-behind win at the 2019 Masters. The Masters Sunday averaged 12.7 million viewers.
Wow.
During the 7 and 7:15 p.m., that was the sudden death, 19.5 million viewers watched as he beat Justin Rose in a sudden death playoff. So this was a lot of people watched this.
Nearly 20 million Americans, 20 million people. Yeah, that's amazing. Wow.
And, we just paid our income tax, of course.
Yes.
Some of us did. And some people don't pay taxes. The average federal tax refund by state ranges from $2,700 to $4,000. Florida and Texas get the biggest refunds. Maine and Wisconsin are the smallest refunds. So don't move to Maine or Wisconsin, or move to Texas, and you don't have any state income tax like we're advocating for last night.
Torch that tax.
Torch the tax. All right, Larry Connors USA is up next. Larry's going to ask, are more Dems want to do a welfare check on deported illegals, transgender activists taking children from fathers, and as Michigan Muslim is ashamed that jihad has not destroyed the USA. That's on Larry Connors USA up next. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Please be true.
Spring is in the air, and so are the savings at Johnson Heating and Cooling. Let our family take care of your family's heating and cooling needs. Right now through May 15th, get a complete air conditioning checkup for just $99. Fully licensed and insured with free estimates, and we service all brands. Comfort meets affordability. That's the Johnson Heating and Cooling promise. Call 636-332-4141 or visit johnson-heatingandcooling.com.
Connor Roofing, you can